Hello. Welcome along to episode 226 of Adventures in Pop. My name is Simon Jacobs, and you are remarkably welcome. Thank you. And if you're enjoying this series, do subscribe or do think about subscribing. Maybe give it some thought before you just commit yourself. But I'm always terribly grateful for the subscribers, of whom there are now apparently, according to YouTube, over 140,000 of you. So I haven't got time to thank you all by name, but thank you anyway. In this episode, I would like to talk about a brand new song that I'm kind of still finishing off. I mean, it's that raw and that kind of, unset that it is still kind of in the process of just being finished. But I've got enough of it to talk a little bit about a kind of curious aspect of it. And I thought it would be helpful to kind of go through all the thought processes of how I got to where I am now, particularly for those of you who are interested in the kind of songwriting process, which I think is really interesting to talk about because it's quite hard to talk about. I think people who are, artists, he says slightly pretentiously, it doesn't matter really what the art form is, whether it's music or painting or a million other things. The people who kind of work in those fields, I think, find it quite difficult to describe or explain how they got from, a blank canvas to a work of art, or a blank page on my laptop to a whole song. But it is worth kind of giving it a go, because I think the more you can explain it, the more you can learn from it yourself, as well as being able to maybe, give some interesting pointers to other people. So, the song that I am just finishing writing is a song called Stella McCartney and Mary J. Yes, a little curious, and that's one of the things I quite like about it. I like being able to write songs that have got slightly intriguing titles, because you want anything, any reason is going to hook people in and make them think, maybe I'll listen to this one. Is a good thing, of course. So where did this come from? Okay, earlier this week, I found myself looking through a bunch of photographs. It was an extraordinary roll call of the very rich and the very famous, mostly people from the music industry, but a lot of people from the fashion world, actors, sports stars, all coming together in New York for I think Vogue magazine sponsored Gala Met. Now look, I don't really know anything about the fashion world. I didn't know about this. This is not really my area of interest, but what I was fascinated by was just page after page, scrolling down through this thing. It took ages, of all these incredible, glamorous, opulent and extravagant outfits in the name of fashion and in the name of being seen and photographed turning up to this party in New York for Vogue magazine. And it really was an outrageous kind of, invite list. I have to say, let's just be very clear, I actually wasn't invited this time. And that's not really my area of interest. I wasn't really bothered about that. What really did strike me, though, and this is what set off the kind of, can I make this into a song kind of thing, was just going through page after page after page of very, very, very famous people looking, unbelievable, or sometimes outrageous, and sometimes, just extraordinarily glamorous, and occasionally just a bit odd. And I was sort of thinking, what's going on in America at the moment? People are getting disappeared. People are being sent to different countries. The people are struggling with paying their bills. We've got serious wars in lots of places around the world, which I don't want to talk about because they're too horrible and they're intractable and they've been going on for ages. But meanwhile, we've got the rich and the famous wearing their best party frock in New York. And I did, without putting too fine a point on it, I did find it jarring. I just thought, really enough already. You know, once you got to the 150th picture, and that picture happens to be Diana Ross wearing something so huge that she needs people to, you know, to hold it in her wake. And, you know, basically some enormous train of you know, to call it a wedding dress would be to insult, you know, it, or probably insult wedding dresses. I mean, it's just enormous. That was page 150. So I'd already seen about 149 before I got to that one. I mean, it is something really quite incredible. I'll try and pop a few of those pictures that did inspire me onto this. Now, there's several ways you can come at, you know, trying to write a song where basically you want to make, or at least in this case, I wanted to make a very simple point, which is, look at all these people turning up to this opulent party, incredibly extravagant. This is the, you know, the rich and the famous par excellence, and meanwhile, you know, the world is burning. It's a very simple thing to say, and you don't have to lay it on with a big trowel, because actually just by pointing out this and pointing out this, you've done your work, really. I think you don't have to say, see all the rich people, see all the poor people. You just paint a picture of that and a picture of that, and you can leave people to work out whether that's okay or not okay. There's one other aspect of this, though, that I think is really interesting, and I think what I've sort of written is a list song. Now, do you know what I mean by a list song? Do you know, there's two examples I could think of straight away, which is, one is a British band from the 90s, had a few hits that were kind of bit in, you know, from the rave scene of Manchester, I think, The Beloved. They had a single, I think it was on their first album, a single called Hello. And in Hello, they did some name checking. You know, they did a list. This person, this person, this person, this person. And it's rather like the other example I think is quite well known is Billy Joel's We Didn't Start the Fire, which is essentially entirely a list. This, and this, and this, and this, and this. And if I find some of those, let's find some of those lyrics very quickly. We Didn't Start the Fire, Billy Joel. You'll know this one. I won't give it all to you, but the first verse. Harry Truman, Doris Day, Red China, Johnny Ray, South Pacific, Walter Winchell, Joe DiMaggio, Joe McCarthy, Richard Nixon. I'm not doing this very well, am I? Studebaker Television, North Korea, South Korea, and Marilyn Monroe. Thank you, Billy Joel. That's the first verse of many of We Didn't Start the Fire, which, by the way, I think you'll find it on a greatest hits, end of the 80s, something like that. Not one of my favourite songs, but it was a big hit all the same. And you know, kind of interesting in this, you know, what he's choosing to put onto the list and what isn't. I mean, you know, anyone's guess. You know, he mentioned The Catcher in the Rye and Liberace and Joseph Stalin, and, you know, it's a really strange eclectic list. So that's one of them. The other one I mentioned, Hello by the Beloved. Hello, Peter. Hello, Paul. Saints and Sinners, welcome all. Tommy Cannon, Bobby Ball. Hello, hello, hello. Tommy Cannon, Bobby Ball, British comedians from the 70s and 80s, really. Quite obscure. Little Richard, Little Nell, Willy Wonka, William Tell, Salman Rushdie, Kim Mizell. Hello, hello, hello. That's kind of fun, isn't it? So without me thinking about that before I did it, I've sort of ended up in the same ballpark as those two songs with the chorus that I wrote, because I wanted to name check some of the people that I was seeing in these Vogue photographs. So my chorus goes, Kim Kardashian in Boucheron. I wanted to name the stylist as well. Anna Wintour in Louis Vuitton. And just behind them, Rihanna in Cartier, and here's Stella McCartney with Mary J. And the song's called Stella McCartney with Mary J. Here comes Stormzy and Madonna and Pharrell and Dua Lipa wearing Chanel. There's Lewis Hamilton and Lana Del Rey, Jeffrey Goldblum and Lorde. Look over there, it's Nicki Minaj with Nicole Kidman giving it large, and there I think that's Chanel Monáe with Stella McCartney with Mary J, etc., etc. Now look, I'm not going to play you the whole of my song because I don't think it's quite at the point where I can share it with the world. I might, but I will, having read you some lyrics, I'll play you the chorus, I'll play you a bit of it, I'll play you half the song. Is that okay? Don't be cross. So I'll play a little part of this. Otherwise, really, that would be an incomplete episode, wouldn't it? And I'd feel bad about it. So I've got all those famous people, and then in one of the verses, I just say, you don't have to go very far to see things you don't want to see. And it's the different side of the city. No one showers you with luxury gifts. Your mum and dad are working 2 shifts. Nothing comes for free, and the streets aren't so pretty. And that's all I need to say. And all the rest of it is, who's this trying to look invisible while sporting a bright red velvet cape? For some, this is bliss. For others, it is horrible. And right now, you're wondering how soon you can escape. So that's my song called, as I say, Stella McCartney with Mary J. And I would just say, I think in a more general sort of sense, what I'm doing at the moment is, with the songwriting, is because I've basically got the next album and possibly the album after that sort of largely, not maybe entirely, but largely sort of complete. It seems to me the most useful thing with songwriting is, you just keep going, basically, because you don't know if you're going to write something, fabulous or something that goes in the bin after about 3/4 of the way through. So you just keep going anyway. But in the keeping going at the moment, what I'm trying to do is just experiment a little bit, push the envelope a little bit in some way. And it might be it's some aspect of the instrumentation, it might be in the songwriting construction, it might be in the way I sing it, or something has got to be a little bit different or a little bit experimental at the moment. Otherwise, I think you can end up getting a bit stuck. You can end up basically writing the same song, over and over and over again, starting in the same kind of place on the same keyboard, in the same sort of keys. And I don't really want to do that. So I think it's really good to do some experimentation. And what it means is I end up with a bunch of songs I probably won't release, it's unlikely. But it's a bunch of quite strange songs. And in amongst the strangeness, there'll be 1 or 2 that are good, hopefully. And it's definitely worth doing. It definitely helps you move the needle on the songwriting. So however you find your inspiration, and as I say, this was purely by chance, looking through a bunch of photographs that eventually made me start to feel uncomfortable, then that's as good a way as any to kick off the songwriting process and to find a subject, a focus for your songwriting narrative. And that's it. I would just finish by saying I did see somebody on YouTube. I don't remember who his name was. I'd never seen him before, but it was just that some guy on YouTube was talking about the mixing process. And he was saying, when you mix a track, what is it essentially that you're trying to do? And, the answer would normally come back as, you're trying to find clarity and tone, and you're trying to make sure the volumes are right and that you're hearing the right bit of the song. He says, yeah, but that's not really the answer. He says the answer is you're trying to make sure that people feel something. And I think that is actually a great answer. I think that's exactly right. When you're writing a song, when you're writing a book, when you're painting a painting, you're hoping that your work in some way helps somebody or makes somebody feel something, an emotional response. That's all. And it can be a good one or a bad one. It could be they love it or they hate it, but an emotional response. That is the answer. That is why we write songs. And I think that's a kind of simple and yet complicated answer to that question. Why do we do it? Why do we want to mix? Why do we want it to be clear and compelling and engaging? It's because we want people to feel something, and they're only going to actually feel something if they feel inclined to listen to more than 20 seconds of it. Okay, so I'm going to leave you with a little bit of this weird new song, and wish you a lovely weekend, and I'll be back very, very soon. And just in case you have been on a different planet, please do go and check out my most recent single, which is Ibiza Sunset from a couple of weeks ago, and the Goldhawk Fox's most recent single, which is Ready and Willing. And both Goldhawk Foxes and me and I have new material ready to go in a couple of weeks' time. So we're just getting to the end, both Goldhawk Foxes and with my solo stuff, getting towards releasing, a whole album. And then there's normally a little pause of about 5 minutes. I'm on to the next lot. Anyway, you take care. Be good. I hope you enjoyed this, and, sit tight for a little bit of, as I say, Stella McCartney with Mary J. Take care. Bye-bye.
Here comes Stormzy, and Madonna and Pharrell, and Dua Lipa, she's wearing Chanel. There's Lewis Hamilton, Lana Del Rey, Jeffrey Goldblum, and Lorde. Well, look up there, it's Nicki Minaj, Nicole Kidman, they're giving it large. There, I think, and that's Chanel Monáe, and Stella McCartney with Mary J.